Welcome to a video from reducedlifestyle.com. This is episode 4 of Modwave Secrets videos. Previous videos we've looked at motion sequencing, mod processors, creating drum kits, and this one we're going to look at the Kaoss Pad. There's a whole load of stuff you can do with the Kaoss Pad. It's kind of something that I probably underutilise in some of my patches, so I'm going to show you how you can use it with your patches and what some of the different physics and things make with it. So I'm going to show you how you can use the Kaoss Pad with your existing sounds, how to create new patches with it, and what the different physics options mean with it. So what you hear here on this example is a DW8000 mono lead sound. And you can hear the sync effect is being controlled by the Kaoss Pad. And also, the detune is being controlled as well by the Kaoss Pad, so there's lots of different options on that one. Well, this one. So with the Kaoss Pad, you can dramatically change the sound. So what I'm going to do is we'll go through it. Initial patch. Okay, so I've got a basic sound there. So what we're going to try in this one is we'll have the Kaoss affecting the wavetable and the filter. So the Kaoss is an XY controller effectively. So as you can see, if I compare on the screen there, you can see it's an X and Y control that you can apply to modulation to different parameters using that. And then you've got the physics side, which we'll have a look at shortly. But let's just first have a look at the XY. So basic patch here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a wavetable. This is the DW8000 wavetable I'm using here. Let's mute oscillator 2 so you can hear oscillator 1. Now go through it. You can hear the different wave. So you've got the wavetables switching between them using that. So we're leaving that basic position. And then if I go to modulate that with the controller, you see I've got a few Kaoss options. The most simple ones are the X and Y. Then you've got angle and X plus, Y plus, and so on. So let me just explain these first. So X, let's go into X, and I'm going to apply 100%. So wherever that Kaoss is, and let's have a look at the oscillator, you can see now it's controlling the position, say on the screen, of that, and that's the X. So the Y doesn't make any difference, but the X controls that position. So you can hear it now, it's not doing anything in these lower parts. So what I'm going to try doing is put that at 50%. Let's try it. There we go. So it's operating the full range. So it's working it. When I go down there, it's a negative value and it's a positive value. So now if I play it, hold the chord down, say, put the pedal, hold it down. Then the physics can take over. They can go faster and slower and so on. So that's using the X control. Now if I go over to the filter, let's turn that filter down. And I apply the Y 100% on that one. Let's go in the middle. There you can hear the filter opening and closing. So now if I'm just going to apply a bit of extra envelopes on here. And let's put an arpeggiator on. So you can see now, maybe that's too low because it's completely down, isn't it? So this is where you can adjust those. So maybe I want the bass to be there. Maybe I wanted it a little bit higher. That's okay, that's the kind of range I want. And now we can do the wavetable as well. So I can have that waveform with how they filter, or I can have one of the other digital waveforms with loads of filter. So that's at its simplest level, applying an X and Y to it like that. And then you've got some movement on there created by the Kaoss. So that was the simplest one. So this is using the Kaoss Y there. If we use the Y plus, we'll only get the positive values. So it's a positive value, but it's never a negative value. So if I take this down to there, that will always be the lowest. And in fact, it has no effect in the negative range. Now, on the reverse of that, if I change it to the Y negative, it's taking that value as a positive value, but from that second half, that's that lower part. So I could make it a negative value by doing like that. So I can turn the filter up. So that's pretty much normal, and then it will close it. But it does mean then that this X, so this positive access, this positive value is there, we're not currently using. So for the resonance, I could apply the Y positive. So it turns the resonance up on this half, and it turns the filter down on this half. And like I said, you could have any combination of that. So instead of it being there, we change it to a positive value. So when I go up, I get resonance. When I go down, I get filter open. And in the middle, it's kind of between the two. And all the time that this wavetable is being modulated. So you can imagine you can do any combination of these. And it doesn't take much. To get a nice effect on it. So that was just using the Kaoss Physics, so we're not using any of the motion sequence or LFOs or anything else. So the other ones you've got on there is distance and angle. So distance is the distance from the center spot. So I'm just going to modulate the wavetable now. So as I go further away, you can see it goes to a high value. As I center, let's show it on the screen. So go up there, that's the highest value, and then as we go to the center, so it's the lowest value. It's always a positive value, so in this case we would go like that. So go from 0 to the full range, because it's distance relative to that center spot. So quite a handy one that. So it's not like a plus or minus from that, it's the distance from there. The other one we've got is the angle. That's the angle. So that's a low value, and the further up we go, the higher the value. So think of a triangle value. That's the highest value. It can go that angle, and then back around again. So with that, you can do combinations of things as well. So we could do oscillator 2, and let's apply a bit of syncing. With that modulation amount, I'm going to use the let's go for distance, and I'm going to switch this one back to being the x-axis. So let's turn that to distance. So you can see it affecting oscillator 2 sync. So we're switching wavetables, we're introducing sync. And because it's using the physics of your finger control, it's not controlled by any special timing or anything else. You've got a lot of control in it. It's got that very organic feel to it. So you could use it as subtle as just a bit of pitch shifting to make it sound a bit analog, or very digital like I've got there. You can do the effects as well with this one because it affects both A and B levels. So let's apply the wet dry time to the distance. Maybe the time. I'm going to go with the angle. Time does sound a bit glitchy when you do that, doesn't it? Because it's taking the time. So let's go with that one, and let's just do something like that layer send. So now it's going to do all that effects as well. So, a nice effect on there. So that's a good example that we've used. Now let's have a look at the Kaoss, and this is where it gets a bit more complicated. The physics of the Kaoss. So you've got these controls over it here. The bump X, Y, the height, the lag time, you've got friction, you've got gravity. You've got a lot of different controls over it. And if you go into here, you'll see there's loads of presets, and these really do help you. So let's look at one of the orbit ones I always like. So now you can see the control is doing an orbit around that center point. The friction's fairly low, so it's going to carry on going. If I increase that friction, it'll get slower and slower as that friction kicks in. So that friction's quite tight on this now, so it's dragging it in. I reduce that right down to nil. There's no friction, and it will carry on going forever. A bit of friction will eventually slow it down like gravity. So here's the gravity option. So gravity is pulling that down. And again, we can tilt it. So like tilting the angles. We tilt the X and Y. And we can tilt it. We can alter the height of it as well. So that center bit that's grabbing that gravity is further center, so it catches it only when it hits that center point. And here you can decide whether it bounces off the edge or whether it passes through, straight round. There's a lot of gravity on that now, so it's increasing. If we increase the friction, it will get pulled down a bit. And we can move it up. caught it. So that is the kind of thing you can do it. So you can imagine a table or a plane, and you put your hole in it so the ball falls in the hole. That's what it's just done. I've actually got the manual to help with this as well. You can get the manual, because there's all these options here and what I've just been talking about. But you've also got things like launch. So this is when you trigger it. So you could use a way of triggering the Kaoss Pad without physically touching it. Let's have a look at that. Initial on. Let's take it back to the center. Right. So here we're going to do a launch. So we can decide, I'm going to put some extreme values on here so you can see what I mean. So this is when we launch it with external control. So I could launch it from, let's launch it from the mod wheel just to show you, and it's got to be above 50. There you go. So I'll do that again. So let's center it. Gets above 50 and it launches it at those values. Probably what you could do is change it to the damper. So I can do it with the foot pedal. So let's, there you go. I hit the pedal, it launches to those values there. So if I make that friction quite high, it's going to stop quite quickly now. But then as soon as I hit the pedal, it's off again. And if you have a look at some of these, you'll see some really interesting ones that there you can see it's a skate pit. So imagine it's a cone, the ball's going into a cone. But as soon as I hit the pedal, I can start it off. So I'm going to start it off in the top left. Oh, change that trigger to the damper. Top right, which of course that value is. So it's not just using the actual surface as well, it can be all done through MIDI. It also transmits MIDI as well. So here we've got the manual. You see it transmits it over MIDI CC 18 and 19. When you lift your finger and throw the ball effectively, it uses System Executive to send that. So there's some of the values on there. So what that means is you control another synth with it. So you could use a plugin, say 2600 plugin, something like that, and control the filter and the resonance from that. So I have a real-time controller with all the physics that goes with it as well. So it's just another option you've got with it. So it seems quite complicated when you first look at it, and especially physics, it seems maths and things like that, but it's actually fairly straightforward once you get used to it. But I use it for various different ways. I've used it for doing like vector synthesis. So you can just choose the X, Y to switch between 4 different waveforms. See whether I've got one. An example of that. Yeah, I have. Yeah, this one crossfades between the waves. So it's just the 2. I'm using 2 waves on there. This one I think uses 4. Here's a Tangerine Dream type split. So just controlling that analog synth with it. And here's one using filter and resonance. It's well worth having to play with, just to give you some extra control over your sounds, as well as you've got the mod controls. You can do those X, Ys, and it works over MIDI as well. So I hope that answers a few questions on the Kaoss. If you've got any more areas of the Modwave you'd like me to include on the secrets videos, please let me know, leave a comment. I'll see you on the next video.